Hey, everybody. Welcome to Work in Progress, where we unpack the human side of innovation. This is a series about real people, bold projects, and the stories that shape them both. Here at Thinkering Collective, we believe who you are shapes what you build, and your why shapes who you build it for. Today's guest is Anna Voth, a deeply committed educator who's been serving students and teachers for more than 25 years. She's now charted a different course focused on one of the most important issues in education today, mental health, connecting people, and humanizing learning and just the experience of being together. Anna joined the Thinkering Fellowship with a vision of creating schools where every student, educator, and stakeholder feels seen, safe, supported, heard. To me, that's one of the most important things that's foundational to everything. Everything else is downstream from that. I think she's working towards her master's life coach certificate, right?
Yes, yeah,
And is launching her own business and designing tools around reflections and guides to helping individuals care for their mental emotional well-being and connecting all of that around being human and humanizing learning. So this is a conversation about listening to your calling, Anna, and all of us coming to understanding of purpose through your journey. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
okay. Yeah, you gave me a nice introduction. I've been in education. This will be starting my 20th year, and I've done a lot within that. I've been in the classroom, got my master's degree in educational leadership, and then tagged on an administrative license to that. And then I got into coaching teachers, and after that, I I went down sort of the curriculum and instruction road, and I loved it, don't get me wrong, but my passion is working with people and not looking at standards and reorganizing curriculum. So I found a place where I could kind of combine both. And so right now what I do is my title is professional development facility. And so within that involves coaching and training teachers in whatever they feel that they need a little bit more support in, and also writing the training that I will use with, usually I do it with a partner, and then working with students, being in school, being visible, being somebody that if a teacher or student sees in the hallway knows that they can come up, approach me with whatever, and we'll figure it out together. So that's kind of where I've landed. I think where my heart wants to be, it's not there yet. And that's one reason why I did this fellowship. And that's another reason why I'm getting interviewed right now as well.
Yeah, you've seen everything from so many different angles, and you've always been the bridge builder. What's kept you in it for so long? That we know burnout is the biggest thing that educators have to really face. Is just how do you do it day in and day out?
Right.
As somebody who everyone else leaned on, what did you find to combat that?
I think along the way, there's a lot of little things. I will be completely transparent. There have been years that I have ended, starting summer break and said to myself, I have to do something else. I can't continue this. I reached that burnout point, and I'm a very reflective person, and I think about how one little thing can impact a child so much, and you don't even realize that that move that you made all the difference in the world. For example, this happened recently. It happened last year. I was in a classroom as sort of a substitute. I would say the teacher had a meeting and asked me to step in for half an hour to watch the kiddos do a math assignment. So I was in there, I was walking around, looking over their shoulders, doing the whole, proctoring teacher thing. And I got to this table and I was looking over this little girl's shoulder, and she was solving this problem in a different way than most of her peers were in the classroom. And I thought, wow, she's thinking outside the box. That's really cool, especially for a second grader. And so I bent down and I asked, "What's your name?" And I introduced myself again because sometimes you walk in and they don't necessarily catch your name. I told her, I said, "I noticed that how you're solving this. This is really unique, and wow, you have an amazing mind, and that's a special thing in math, and I'm really proud of you, and I this is really neat to see on paper." And she paused and looked up at me and she said, "No one has ever said that to me before." And my heart cracked open, but then was also filled with joy at the same time because I thought, wow, if I wouldn't have stopped and said that, that interaction would have never happened. And I know for a fact that that made an impact in her. If no one has ever told her, and she's a little second grader. She's so much farther to go in public education. And if she had been going down the road that she was going down, feeling negative about herself as a mathematician, that would have continued and it probably would not have been better for her. I simply stopped and had a 2-minute conversation with her and changed her outlook on herself as a student in that classroom, as a mathematician in that classroom. And so that's just one of the, oh my gosh, millions of stories that I could tell. And I think what happens to me is I get to a point where I'm just like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I can't give anymore. I am at the bottom. I'm really digging deep, but there's not much room to dig anymore. And then I think about children like that. And I think about all those interactions that I've had with children throughout my 26 years, and not only children, teachers as well, that have come up to me and said, "When you said this, it made such a difference for me. Thank you so much." Honestly, when I said whatever it was they were referring to, I thought nothing of it. I said it, walked away, and went on about my day, but it impacted their life and their career. And that's what keeps me in it, is those little moments, those little shiny, sparkly, positive moments that where you're one person, but just because you're one person doesn't mean you can't make a difference. And that's what keeps me doing what I do.
Yeah, I love it. I talked to you, like I said earlier, like 24 hours ago, we were talking,
Yeah.
and you said that, you know, there's a little bit of fire that had gone out on this recent journey has relit some of that. Who are you becoming through this work now that you're, like you said, have a bit of a fire reignition there?
I'll talk about my past. When I graduated from um, Colorado State University with my bachelor's degree in psychology, my true passion was to go on and be a school counselor. It was just my calling. That's what I wanted to do. And I felt that that would be a really good place for me to journey forth. Unfortunately, at the time, I didn't have the financial means to go to graduate school and do that. So I went into teaching, which in and of itself does have a lot of counseling in it, in a different sort of way, I guess you could say. And throughout the years, when I interact with people or children or supervisors, they always tell me you're so great at connecting with people, and the relationships that you build with people. It's amazing how you walk into a room and by the time you leave, everyone knows something about you, or you've interacted with everyone in that room. And that makes me feel great. That's what I want to do. I want to leave everyone that comes into my life or that I talk to, when I leave, both of us feel better and we've learned from each other. And I think with the way that education is perceived on social media and just in media in general, it's always those negative stories that you hear. And yes, they do happen. I know that people make mistakes and people make poor choices, but that is what gets televised, and that's what gets put on social media. Rarely do you see all the positive things that happen in education. When I leave this world and I'm not going down a depressing highway, I want people to think about me and think, you know what? When she was around, I felt like I could do anything. I felt like I could achieve any dream that I had because she made me feel empowered. She made me feel valued and important, and that I belonged and that I was heard. And I started really thinking about that and how powerful that is to feel that you belong. And that's where I'm going to start with this. If you have ever been in a situation, and it can be anything, where you have felt like you were an outsider and you had no one cared that you were there. No one looked at you. No one asked you questions. You were just kind of there. And that honestly is like this hollow feeling in your soul, and it feels horrible. And in the district where I am now, there are children that feel that way a lot. The population that I interact with is very impacted socioeconomically. And because of that, and because of a lot of other factors that go into this, I see a lot of children every day that don't feel like they belong. They go to school, they go through the motions, and they go home. And they don't feel like they're a part of the school. They don't feel like they're a part of that educational family or that community. And I see those sweet babies, I always call them my sweet babies, sitting by themselves in the lunchroom or sitting on the playground by themselves. And it it breaks my heart. And if you as a human don't feel like you are seen or valued, if you don't feel like you belong, you cannot go forth in your life. And I will hang my hat on that. That is a hill that I will die on, because that is a foundation of every human. I don't care if you are 5 years old or 95 years old. If you don't feel like you belong, you cannot live a life that you were meant to live. And, people may disagree with that, but I just feel like that sense of belonging, that sense of trust, that safe feeling, knowing that you can be in a space with these people or this one person and you are seen, you are heard, and you feel valued and you feel like you belong. Oh my gosh, it's just the best feeling ever. And I want everyone in the world to experience that. But I'm one person. So I feel like every day when I go and I do my job or my work, I come home and here's what I say to myself. And I said, I was very reflective. I said, here's what I say. Has every decision, has every interaction that I have had today, would I want that for my own biological children? I have a daughter and I have a son. If I can say yes to that, then I have had a great day. If I say no to that, I know I have some work to do the next day. And I go in and I find whomever that is that I don't feel like we ended the way that I wanted to. And we talk about it and we come up with a solution and we leave feeling like better people. And I do that every day, every day. And the days that I say, you know what? No, I made a mistake. I need to fix it, because as humans make mistakes and you learn from those and you go on and hopefully don't make them again. And for me, I have to fix that. And I have to fix that with every human. And so that's sort of just me in a nutshell. I don't know. Maybe not a nutshell. Maybe a big, humongous, like James and the Giant Peach area or something like that. Because a nutshell is so little, and the impact that I feel like I want to make, and also what belonging brings to people, is gigantic. It's not a nutshell. And I just want to make that known that that is a huge thing, and it's very valuable in life.
Yeah. One of our partners, Dr. Chris Culver from Orange Sparrow, I like to call him Dr. Kindness, but he, talks about, there's this loneliness epidemic. And it's not just at our schools, it's throughout the country and,
Mhm.
probably throughout the world. But there's something going on where there's this increasing kind of desperation coming from people where everyone feels divided, not quite in touch with everyone else,
Mhm.
not fully accepted. And one of the things that he brought up in a speech that I was watching was that the Surgeon General compared loneliness to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
And you think about, okay, a child that goes through elementary school feeling out of touch, middle school, and then high school, then college, and then into adulthood. And maybe they're neurodivergent. They never realized it and they just
Mhm.
never quite fit in the way they're told they're supposed to. And then 40 years of loneliness before coming to terms with what's going on and
Mhm.
processing that. That's as a pack a day of smoker for half their life, their full life
Yeah.
at that point. And when you think about children, suffering through that throughout their lives, just even for a little while, it's the health ramifications are insane. And then it just affects every aspect of who they are. And
Mhm.
then one of our co-founders, Garrett, our senior advisor, he said something that I always love to call back to, which is at Thinkering, we want to make it so that the students and the learners believe that the world needs who that they were made to be. Like that, I think that's how we maybe combat loneliness is through that self-empowerment, self-belief that I don't have to be anyone other than myself because I was built for this moment uniquely to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
myself, and no one
Yeah.
else can fill that special spot. What's
Exactly.
your big switch that we can flip, or how do we tackle this epidemic?
Gosh, I wish I could answer. I mean, I wish I had the answer to that. But as you were talking about that, had a situation pop into my head that happened actually last year. Last year, I was given the opportunity to actually be an assistant principal for summer school. And I have my principal license, but I've always used it in summer school. I've never used it in an actual school year. And that is the road I want to go down. I would love to be in leadership because I feel like you can make the moves that you make as a leader can change the complete culture of a school. And that is down to, I mean, the most minute thing that you can think of. And I'm gonna go off on a tangent, but then I'm gonna come back. Just I know in my position right now, I travel. So I'm called an itinerant teacher. So I go to different schools in my district. I can walk into a school and I can feel like amazing. I feel warm, I feel welcome. I feel like if my children were little, I would want them to be at this school. And I can also walk into schools and feel completely the opposite. And that culture that is set up, I believe, starts with the administration and the leadership. And that's one reason why I want to go down that road because with everything that's in my head and with everything that I want to do, I feel like that road would help me touch more people. I'll say that. Interact with more people. And so here's the story I was going to tell you before I went off on that tangent. So I was an assistant principal at a school. We had 5-year-olds through 12, 13-year-olds, eighth graders. And I walked around every day. I popped my head in every single classroom to make sure that the kids were happy and the teacher was happy and everything was going well. And I peeked into eighth grade classroom and I saw this student. I had never interacted with him before. I didn't know what his name was. I didn't even know if he spoke English because our district is so diverse. We have over 100, and I was reading this the other night. We have 130 different, what do I want to say, cultures, races, but we also have 160 different languages in our district. That's huge. So I see this young man and he's sitting there, and I can tell that he needs to be out of that classroom because he's not paying attention. And by the look on his face, I can tell that something has happened in his day that he feels horrible. And I can tell by his expression. So I walk up to him and I say, "Hey, come with me." And I, really quietly, I don't want to cause a big deal. Well, he knows I'm the assistant principal. So immediately he says, "Am I in trouble?" And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. Come, down to my little room." I said, "When I going on?" And he said, I had a lot of stuff was going on in my house. I didn't get to eat breakfast. I was rushed out the door without grabbing my homework that I was supposed to bring today. Just everything started off negatively and it hasn't changed. And I said, "Well, here's the deal. If that happens again, which it will," I said, "that happens to me. It happens to all humans. You are invited into this space into my office anytime that you need to be. You just let your teacher know where you're going because safety is important. And anytime, if you need to cool down, whatever, you can come in. If you don't want me in here, I will leave." And I just want to let you know that. Well, here's what happened. The next day he wasn't at school, and that was concerning to me because of what had happened the previous day. So the first thing I did that next morning is I found out if he was at school, and I went and got him. And I said, "Hey, I was really worried about you yesterday." And he looked at me like, "Why? Why do you even care?" And I said, "Well, you weren't here. And I was worried about you because of the conversation we had had before." And he said, "Well, why does it matter that I'm here?" And I said, "It matters to me that you're here." I said, "Maybe other people don't feel that way, but it matters to me. And when you didn't show up yesterday, I was worried about you. And you belong here. And I want you to know that you belong here. And that I am going to be checking and making sure that you are here and you are safe every day because I care. I believe in you, and I believe that you can be successful." And he finished out the rest of summer school, and he never was absent. And his mother, on one of our last days, came up to me crying. She spoke no English, and I knew why she was approaching me. And she gave me a hug and just was pouring her heart out to me. And I looked at her son, and he said, "She's just telling you how much she appreciates you and what you've done for me during this time." That is why I stay right there.
I love that. That's yeah, that's super powerful.
It's
I
huge.
like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he
That
felt like he was nothing. Why do you care? And he felt like he didn't belong, which is where I've tried to, I've been focusing this conversation on. And so if I don't belong, why do I even have to go? No one is going to notice if I'm there or if I'm not. And the fact that I noticed made a huge difference to him. And all I had to say was, "Hey, I was worried about you. You weren't here. And if that continues, I'm going to continue to worry about you because I need you to come to school every day." And that was all I had to say. And it's it's genuine, and I feel it in my heart with every single child. And there are some tough ones that I've had to deal with that have, said, "No, get away. I don't need you." And I give them that space, but eventually I see them, start to come around. And I hope that I can get there with them so that they know that I'm a safe adult that cares and believes in their potential.
that's all they need to start with. Most if everybody had somebody like that in their corner, we would all be a lot better off.
Yep.
Your
Right.
Yeah, your capstone journey is evolving, but its foundation is, I guess, around belonging and mental health. Can you describe it in better words than I than I
Sure. Well, and it is a work in progress. Like when I was presenting it to the little group of 3 yesterday, I mentioned that, and I'm not sure where I want to go with it. I don't know if I want it to be a book, a pamphlet, a blog, Google slide presentation, a YouTube video, I don't know. But the central focus is about how important it is to feel that you belong in this world, in your space. And that if you don't have that feeling, you just can't function. I mean, you feel like a nothing, and that's not a good feeling. And so my hope is to create this book, pamphlet, whatever, that provides people with to when they get dysregulated or when they feel like they don't belong, what they can do to help themselves feel better and come into a more positive space than the negative space that they are in now. And there's a lot of books that I've read. There's quotes in there. There's a lot of analogies in there. Um, I'll share one right now. I was thinking about this about chocolate chip cookies. So when you're making chocolate chip cookies, you put in all kinds of good stuff that you like. The reason you do it is because you know it's going to taste great when it comes out of the oven. So now imagine a chocolate chip cookie where you're putting in, let's say, rotten food and flies and just disgusting things. And you're filling this chocolate chip cookie up with all this icky stuff. And it comes out of the oven. Would you want to eat it? No. I mean, you'd throw it in the trash. And so think about yourself as a chocolate chip cookie. We want to surround ourselves with people that are fantastic, that lift us up, that make us feel like we can do anything in the world. And those are the chocolate chips. Those are the raisins, if you like raisins. Those are the white chocolate macadamia nuts, whatever you enjoy in your cookie. You want to surround your life with people like that. Why would you ever want to bring people into your life that bring you down and drag you into a dark hole? Why would you ever want to put rotten food into a chocolate chip cookie or anything else that tastes horrible? So that's one of the analogies that I'm planning to use in this book that I'm developing or whatnot, like a guide to more positive mental health or a guide to belonging, because I think that's true. A lot of times people will talk to me and they'll say, I was with this person and they told me this, and I just feel like I'm not doing the right thing. I always say, why do you continue to have that person in your life? What are they doing for you? And when you really think about that, what are they doing for you? They're making you feel horrible. They're making you feel like you don't belong. They're making you feel like a less than. And why do you keep them in your life? You need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's easy. Sometimes that's just like, all right, I'm going to stop texting them. I'm going to stop emailing them, whatever. Sometimes that's hard to do, to break that. But
Right.
I just feel like the situations we put ourselves into, the people we surround ourselves with need to bring us joy, and they need to lift us up, and they need to support us, and they need to make us feel that we can do anything that we want. And if we have anyone in our life that isn't doing that, we need to walk away.
Yeah, I like that. Speaking of, like, I guess, good support and community, Lori was your mentor, right?
Yeah.
And then, um, I guess your own family and, community around you also helps, mentor you, through
Yes,
this point
yeah,
in your
they
life. Like,
do. Yes.
what is good mentorship, mean to you?
Well, everyone needs that, right? And I've been through situations in my life that have been very low, rock bottom. In fact, for 2 years, I went to food banks so I could feed my children and myself. And wow, you're standing in line and what you feel is awful. I mean, you feel like you're you're giving nothing to the world. Like, why am I even here? What is my purpose? And I I guess for me, people will ask me, they'll say that know what I've been through in my life, and they'll say, what do you regret? Do you regret anything? And I always say no, because if I wouldn't have gone through what I have been through, I would not be the person that I was today. The person that I am today is so far from the person that was standing in the line at the food bank. And the reason why is because I sort of like woke myself up. And I don't even know how to describe it. And I started putting little sticky notes on my bathroom mirror in the morning. You matter. You make your own happiness. Make someone smile today. Little things like that, just to remind myself that I'm not going out alone in the world and I can make a difference. And I made a point to surround myself with people that believed in me. And thank goodness, I mean, my parents and are the most incredible people in the world, and my childhood was beyond fantastic. I wish everyone could have my childhood because wow, it was great. And they're my go-tos. And thank goodness they're still around and I have them in my life. And I have learned so much from them. And because of that, I also have other people that have come into my life in the same way. I have in my life at this moment, I have two people that I work with that are also my very, very close friends. And I've read this quote a million times and I'm going to mess it up, but it's something about it's better to have less friends that lift you up and make you feel amazing than a wide circle of friends that don't that show up, but they genuinely care about you? I don't know. And so just like the chocolate chip cookie, I surround myself with people like that. When I travel from school to school, there are certain teachers that I will touch base with right when I get there because those are my people. Those are the ones that say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here today. I've been wanting to talk to you about whatever." And that's what I do. I seek out the people that give me energy. I seek out the people that want to jump on the Anna train and support me in what I do. And I want to be that person for others. And so, like you said, who are your mentors? I think all of us have different people at different times in our life that do that. My parents have been that constant mentor for me. But like I said, as I've grown and changed and been in different schools, I have different people that I go to. I have, in fact, children that I go to in the morning that lift me up and make me better because they drop their backpacks and they run as fast as they can down the hallway to give me a hug, and they lift me up. They make me feel important. They make me feel like I am there for a reason. And even if it's for them, that's fine. That is totally fine. If it's for one child that I can make a difference, that's great. And so I really feel like
Like
that foundation of belonging, sometimes you have to work at that. And that is finding your people and finding those positive people. And I think the hard work is letting go of the ones that you thought were positive, but you realize are toxic, and letting them go. And that's especially hard if that is a family member. And I'm talking like a blood relative family member, because
yeah.
there are people in my life that I call my family that I'm not related to whatsoever. And I also have people in my family that I am related to that I have had to not surround myself with anymore. And that's very difficult for me, but it's made me better. And I always hope that they will come around and change and turn into one of those people that make me better. But whether they do or not, that's out of my control. So I've let that go. And my sense of belonging is being with people that are my family that believe in me and make my life better.
That's what we want to do at the Thinkering Fellowship. What really moment of encouragement has stayed with you throughout your career?
Like, one moment that you want me to
Yeah, what's
focus
that big
on?
standout moment?
Well, I think back to me going through elementary school, and my parents are both educators. And when I was in elementary school, my dad was the only one that was working. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and we struggled a lot, but we you would never know it. I mean, we were happy, we loved each other, everything like that. But when I went to school, I was ostracized, I was bullied, I was picked on. I was one of the kids that sat alone in the cafeteria. I was one of the kids that didn't have anyone to play with on the playground. And that, when as an adult, I think back to that, and I would never want to ever wish that on anyone. I mean, anyone in the entire world, even people that have done me wrong, even people that have thrown me under the bus. I would never want them to feel that way, because I I can't describe the feeling, but it's horrible. And so I think that is my moment, because I had to live that to now know how that feels, so I can help change that for others, because I don't want them to feel that way.
Well, that's what that moment gave you a superpower.
Yep.
That's
That's what did
and
it.
of off
And
the bridge builder.
of course, I need a cape with a bridge on it or something. I don't know. Something like that. Superhero thing.
Yeah, yeah, I liked it. What have you learned the most about your own personal voice, through the thinkering process?
Learned that, well, I've done a lot of things. I started my own business, and I'm not even doing anything with it. It's just registered with the government. Will I do anything with it? I don't know, but it's there if I ever want to use it. And what I'm trying to do is I am taking these certification classes to become a life coach. And that can be for children, humans, people in business, it doesn't matter, whomever, a life coach, whoever needs that mentorship, that person in their life that spurs them on and makes them feel good. And that's why I started the business, because I thought, if one day I am able to do that for people through my education, through my experiences in life. Wow, with that, if I got to do that every day, I think I'd be the happiest human on earth. I mean, I really, really do, because I I love connecting with people. I love empowering people. I love being a thought partner with someone. And like I said before, creating that space where both of us can be vulnerable and we can both grow and learn from each other. And I think through this, being involved in this Thinkering collective, if I wouldn't have said yes that day, I know for a fact I would have not done anything that I just shared with you. And I cannot tell you why or what, like, the pivotal moment was that made that happen, but I do know that I was just thinking about stuff one day, and my initial capstone project for this was totally different than what I came out with. I was going to work with a teacher, and we were going to make a menu board for math for students, that when they finished their work in class, they could pick and choose different little squares on this, kind of like a bingo card, and they could go down a different road of enrichment in math because they had completed their must do task in the classroom. That's where it started. And that's what I presented to my mentor. That's what I told Lori. I said, here's what I'm going to do. And she said, oh, I have all these resources, da 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 da. And then I don't know, Jim, I don't know. But I just started thinking, and I started thinking about my passion and what fills my bucket. And I know that's an overused saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. And I realized that making a math menu board did not fill my bucket. And I didn't want to that's not what I wanted to do with this. I wanted to do something more. And so Lori sent an email and she said, let's sign up for our second mentor session. And so I did. And I said, Lori, I have completely switched what I want to do. I want to go down this road of connection, mental health, belonging, and that's just where I want to go. I don't know how I want to do it. I don't know what it's going to end up like, but that I don't want to go in the direction I was going before. I want to go in this direction. She said, I love it. Do it and let me know how I can help. And I went with it, and that's what happened. And like I said to you yesterday, I process a lot when I go out and walk. I do not walk for exercise or, I'm not out there power walking. I walk for my mental health. And when I come home, I have hundreds of text messages on my Apple Watch to myself because I've been thinking all these thoughts and processing all these thoughts as I've been walking. And after Lori said, do it, go for it. I love it. I love that direction. That's when I started texting myself, and that's when I started reading books and really reaching deep into my heart and just throwing all of this together and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with it, but knowing that I needed to do something with it. And that's sort of the road that I've traveled down, and I'm still not there, but I'm going to get there. And my hope is that whatever I share with whatever I put out there, I want people to be able to read it, use it, but I also want people to be able to share their own stories. And I want people to comment on other people's stories or even what I have written, because humans need humans. And we need to know that when we're going through something, we're not alone in that. There are other people in the world that are going through the same thing. And I just want to make this platform, I guess you could say, where people can that's their safe space. They go in, they tell their story, they read other people's stories, they comment, they question, and maybe they make a connection that gets to be so powerful that they take that outside of this platform and, meet up for coffee or whatnot. I don't know. But I don't want what I put out there to be a standalone document. I want it to be constantly changing and flowing and growing and getting better and better and better every day. And that's what I'm working on, and I will get there, but like I said, it's a work in progress right now, but that's my goal.
In closing, Anna, what would you say to another educator who's sitting on a quiet dream?
Ooh, I like that quiet dream. That's a good little phrase. I would tell them that if you have a dream, and we have one life, right? And if you have a dream, go for it. If what you're doing right now is not your passion, you need to change that, because I've had in my life very close people to me pass away. And I think to myself, every morning when I wake up, I'm given a gift of this day. And what I do with it is up to me. And so if I see an educator sitting with this quiet dream, I say, you wake up and you think about that dream and you work towards that, and you bring people in that will help you work towards that and support you in that, because we can do anything. Is it easy? No. Are we going to have to work hard at it? Yes. Are we going to experience failure? Of course. Will we learn from that? Yes, we will. But why would you want to live a life of misery when you can make little changes every day and live a life that you feel amazing in? And so that's what I would sit with that person, and I would say, go for it. You find your people and you ride that ship, and it's going to fall apart a lot, but you build it again. And you have to. Life is too short to live in misery. And like I said, I don't wish that on anyone. And so this educator with, their little dream, and I'm used to one of the greatest things I did was mentor new teachers. I loved that, and I'm picturing that in my head right now. Like, this new teacher comes into education and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was going to be like this, but my dream is to make my classroom like this." They have to find the people, they have to find the resources, they have to dig deep within themselves to make that happen so that they can feel like they belong in the world, like they're making a difference and going back to that belonging. And that's huge. And I think that's where it starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Anna Vaugh, a Thinkering Fellow, life coach in the making. Thanks for listening to, we're titling the show A Work in Progress, as that's what we all
Oh,
are.
I love that. Yeah,
Absolutely. I just wanted to remind everybody that the world needs who you were meant to be. And thank you, Anna. And we'll see everybody next time.
absolutely. Thank you, Jim.